So here's a few things to look out on the Volkswagen Group 2.5 TDi engine as typically fitted to the Volkswagen T5 Transporter. And we're just going to look at some of the issues. Now, this engine predominantly is very reliable, very trustworthy. A lot of people have got extremely high mileages out of it with no problems whatsoever. But there are a few issues that keep cropping up, and a lot of them are just down to driver neglect in the first place. So knowing what these problems are and where the potential weak spots are, you can mitigate the risk of having some of these problems on your 2.5 TDi engine. So the 2.5 TDi was a popular choice of engine. It offered a decent amount of power and flexibility. Its overall design and shape was very well suited to the T5. It was used in other vehicles as well, but it was the T5 really that most people think of when you talk about the 2.5 TDi engine. So there were actually two versions of this engine. There was the T5 and the T5.1, as it's been known as, the revision or the facelift that was done. And that brought about a few minor changes and revisions to the engine, predominantly with the aim of making it more reliable and trustworthy. There was no chains involved. There was a gear system that drives the cams at the top of the engine. So all of the problems associated with cam stretching just do not apply to this engine. So I know a few people found the old video thinking it was for the T5 and commented that there are no cam problems, but you were just watching the wrong video, I'm afraid. That was something that was aimed very much at those older engines. The newer see a completely different bag of tricks, and there's different things to look out for on those. So as the engines have evolved over the years, the aim has been to make them more efficient, to reduce the emissions, to meet those ever more stringent emission standards. And that really ensures that the engines are better built, more design thought has gone into them. But the trouble is, when they often introduce these revisions, you may have a few teething problems. So a lot of the pollution controls, the EGR, the DPS, are potential problem areas to look out for. I know that some people looking for a transporter have looked to transplant a 1.9 TDi into the 2.5 engine version of the T5 Transporter. So the 1.9 is one of the most reliable, efficient engines that the Volkswagen Group have ever built, which is probably why people decide to do that. But you shouldn't really need to do that. There's a lot you can do with the 2.5, and the 2.5 just offers so much more power and flexibility. So personally, I would stick with the 2.5 and just be aware of these potential problems and pitfalls. So a lot of these things are down to driver abuse. So lots of short journeys will cause all sorts of problems. Keeping the clutch depressed will put extra load on the dual mass flywheel, and you start to experience dual mass flywheel problems and issues, and also clutch release problems as well, just through keeping that clutch depressed. So giving the engine a decent run every time you take it out will go a long way to mitigating the potential problems that crop up. There's a pressure sensor inside the exhaust connected with the DPF, the Diesel Particulate Filter. So that measures the pressure after the exhaust, and if that's too low, it will conclude there is a blockage in the DPF itself. But the trouble is that sensor is very, very sensitive. If it gets clogged up with soot and other debris that builds up from the exhaust, it will stop functioning effectively, and it may flag up problems with the DPF that just aren't there. So you might notice this as the engine's always requesting a DPF regeneration. You never seem to get the DPF clean, and a lot of people spend a lot of money in fixing a problem with the DPF when actually it's just this exhaust gas pressure sensor that is actually playing up. So sometimes when you've had the engine tuned, you've had it remapped, it's dumping more fuel in and it may be running too rich. So if you've got a bad map on the engine, that can cause excessive soot buildup, which will cause problems with the DPF, but also this pressure sensor that's in the exhaust. So if you've done any mods, just think back to when the problem actually started. Was the mod that you did the cause of the problem? Has things escalated from that point? It can just help you to track back and see where the actual problem started from. So if the fuel map is not correct, you can get excessive heat, which can damage the DPF filter, excessive soot buildup, which will damage and block the DPF, and even unburnt fuel entering the DPF, which again causes all manner of issues and problems. So when the sensor detects an issue, it will generally put up some sort of warning light on the dashboard, and you can read error codes from the OBD2 port. You might be tempted to clean the pressure sensor, but it's a very sensitive piece of equipment. It's very easy to damage it and cause problems with it. So don't try and cheap out and clean it. You'll probably just end up having to replace it again anyway. So if you've taken it off and it looks like that's the issue on the engine, get a new one, swap it out. don't mess around with it. So bear in mind the 2.5 TDi is running at fairly high fuel pressures, so fuel problems are quite common, and typically it's the injectors. They take a lot of abuse over the years, they're doing a lot of work, they do degrade in their performance. I had a comment recently that the injectors seem to fail in pairs. That's just one of those things. I'm sure other people have had different experiences with injectors failing, but if one injector has failed, that's often a sign that the others are about to fail. And some of the injectors are relatively easy to change, and others are a real pig in the 2.5, just the way the engine bay is configured and all the ancillary components are bolted onto the engine. So you'll notice a loss of power, hesitancy, flat spots, maybe even misfiring or just trouble starting the car. They can all be traced back to injector problems. Even high fuel consumption can sometimes be down to a bad injector. If it's not spraying the correct mist shape and profile into the cylinder, you're not going to get a very efficient burn. So you're going to be down on power, down on efficiency, and your fuel economy is going to suffer. So use of a good quality fuel, running a good fuel cleaner. I tend to use the BG range, but other products are out there that are equally as good, I'm sure. But I only tend to recommend stuff that I've actually tried myself. So running some BG cleaner through a tank every now and then can just help to keep the injectors in good condition and just prevent them from degrading to the point where you start to have these rough running problems. So moving to the top of the engine, looking at the cam followers, you often get wear starting to form on these, which can degrade the performance of the engine, causing the valves not to open fully or just creating abnormal engine sounds or loss of power. But it's important to just understand those underlying reasons that are causing this cam follower wear and cam lobe wear. So as the camshaft rotates, the lobe is directly responsible for the opening and closing of the valve. So you might get rough idling, you might be down on power, your fuel economy may start to suffer. You may notice a ticking or a rattling noise from the top of the engine, which could well be down to this excessive wear. But a lot of this is just caused by using the incorrect grade of oil or not keeping to the manufacturer's recommended oil change intervals. You really do need a good quality oil to lubricate that top part of the engine. That's generally where you start to see problems forming first in these, rather than low down and the bottom end. So EGR valves, the EGR system, the exhaust gas recirculation system, is there really for emissions to help the engine burn less fuel when it's actually running at light load and in the warm-up cycle. It's basically spitting some exhaust gases back into the intake. But often this system itself gets sooted up. If the engine is not burning cleanly, there's a lot more soot in the exhaust. And because of the shape of the EGR system and the valve inside that's opening and closing to allow the gases to flow or not, eventually that's just going to clog up and it's going to stop working efficiently. So you're going to have all sorts of problems. So it will either typically block completely, or it will start to stick and work intermittently. So a blockage will tend to trigger the engine management light, and you'll definitely notice the vehicle's emissions are much higher than they should be, and it's definitely not running as efficiently as possible. When it's sticky, that can sometimes be a little harder to track down. It's a bit more of an intermittent fault. You may get an error warning light coming up on the dashboard. You may get rough running. You may notice worse fuel economy. But generally, if you take off the EGR system and clean it and replace it, that's often enough to clear this problem or to mitigate the problem. But do try and address why the engine is burning and creating so much soot. It could just be the fuel. There could be something wrong in the fuel map on the ECU or other issues in the engine that are just preventing clean burning. So with the EGR system and anything really to do with the exhaust, you can really open a can of worms. So it does pay to go to a specialist who understands the 2.5 TDi engine and can get to the problem quickly, rather than this trial and error approach of maybe if we just clean it and see how you get on, or maybe we'll get this new part and see if that fixes the problem. You don't want guesses. You want someone to make a firm diagnosis of the problem so you can get straight to it. But the EGR is a fairly common thing, particularly as the mileage starts creeping up on these. So the water pump itself, there's all sorts of problems that can happen with that. Generally, it's made of metal. The seal around it can degrade, and that allows the water to mix with the oil, which is going to affect the lubrication of the engine and cause lots of damage elsewhere. The cooling system itself will be degraded. It won't be pushing as much water around the engine as effectively as possible. So you may notice the temperature starting to rise. The coolant level is starting to drop because some of that coolant is now in the oil. So the engine is going to be less efficient at cooling in the first place, and you may well suffer from overheating. Catching that early on really is a lifesaver. If you let the engine overheat, you're going to have all sorts of head gasket problems and other problems due to the excessive metal expansion that has gone on inside the engine due to that heat buildup. So I understand there was a recall that was recommended where seals are replaced. There was an oil cooler recall and a water pump recall as well, where these issues were addressed and fixed. So buying a new part is generally enough to mitigate the problem and prevent it from happening again. There are a few aftermarket, better quality water pumps out there that you may well feel the need to invest in to just give you peace of mind for the future. So if you remove the oil filler cap, if you notice a white mayonnaise, most people think head gasket, but in the 2.5 TDi, that could indicate a problem with the water pump. The seal is starting to go. The coolant is starting to mix with the oil. So I've heard of quite a few people now that have recommended changing the water pump at 60,000 miles. So when you do your servicing, it's probably worth just making a note at the 60,000 mile mark to look at the water pump and get that replaced while you've got someone working on the engine. And just keeping an eye on the quality of the oil, maybe even sending the oil off for analysis, can flag up early problems and just give you a heads up before these problems get major. So the exhaust manifold is actually prone to cracking on the 2.5 TDi. The excessive heat and contraction, as it cools, puts a lot of wear on the metal. So it's not uncommon to see cracks forming in the exhaust manifold. You'll notice exhaust gases are starting to blow from the exhaust. The turbocharger may be well down on power just because the exhaust pressure is substantially lower. You might notice exhaust fumes coming into the cabin as you're driving. If the cracks get worse, that can affect the catalyst as well, the DPF. The exhaust is not flowing as it should into that. It affects all the pressure in the system, and the various sensors that are set up to just monitor the efficiency will just be freaking out because something is going wrong. So if you inspect your manifold for cracks, if you hear it blowing, if you notice this engine exhaust smell inside, investigate the problem and get it fixed. A bit of a weld on the crack can actually go a long way to mitigating this problem without having to replace the entire manifold, but other people will just replace the entire manifold as well. So the dual mass flywheel on the side of the engine, so this is essentially two large metal weights that help to absorb and dampen the vibrations from the engine. That really does take a beating. They do generally last to very high mileages, but through driver abuse, sudden changes of RPM, holding the clutch in when you're idling, and just generally not being smooth in the way you control the engine. So the engine is running rough now, and that's causing excessive vibration, which is then absorbed by the DMF, the dual mass flywheel. So the springs in that take a hit. You'll notice a rattling noise. You may notice excessive vibration coming through the transmission as well. So it's quite a costly repair. You may as well get the clutch done at the same time as the DMF. And a lot of people actually, when they do the clutch, they will just do the dual mass flywheel at the same time, just because it involves in most cases, dropping the engine to just get access to it. So quite a lot of work is involved. So you may as well get everything sorted at once. I wouldn't recommend going to a single mass flywheel or a much lighter flywheel. The engine does vibrate a lot. You'll be putting a lot more shock and vibration through the transmission, and it generally upsets the overall smooth running of the engine. So seek advice, talk to people who've had lighter flywheels, and I'm sure they will say that they regret doing that. But there are a few people out there that love having this lighter single mass flywheel on the 2.5 TDi engine. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on that. So another issue is a drive shaft failure on these. So the drive shaft has metal splines on it where it connects, and in time those metal splines will start to wear away. So you'll start to notice maybe metallic noises. You might hear a tooth breaking off. That's an early warning sign. So you will eventually get to the point where there are no teeth left to engage and you've effectively broken down. You just can't make any forward progress at all. So pulling away dramatically at lights every time, really booting it from off the line, these are carrying quite a bit of weight. You're asking a lot of the transmission system, and it tends to be the drive shaft that takes the hit in these. So the seal on the drive shaft itself isn't great. It does allow water to get in, which creates rust and corrosion, and that weakens the metal, causing the teeth to break. So just ensuring that the area is dry and that those seals are in good condition can go a long way to preventing this eventual breakdown and problem that you have from the drive shaft. Keep an eye out on it. If you notice the seal is broken, you may notice rust starting to form around the seal. You may notice those noises that are telltale signs that you're starting to grind away at the teeth on the drive shaft itself. If that's the case, get it sorted. Don't wait for it to break down and have all that inconvenience involved in addressing that problem. Nip it in the bud, get the drive shaft sorted sooner rather than later. So there's a few other issues to watch out for, which are fairly typical of most engines. So the mass airflow sensor can also play up. It degrades, it gets soiled over time. Its performance just generally deteriorates with age. And if it's metering the incorrect amount of air going into the engine, all the fueling is going to be upset. All the other sensors are going to be throwing a hissy fit because they're not getting the readings that they expect. That can also result in more soot from each burn of the engine, and that can eventually clog up the DPF, clog up the EGR, clog up the intakes and form carbon on those intake valves. The N75 valve, which is effectively the boost control, it controls the actuator on the exhaust. If that N75 valve starts to degrade, the exhaust wastegate is not going to open as smoothly or effectively or even at all. N75 problems are quite common. It's a relatively weak system, but it can cause fairly major problems. So often it's a fairly cheap fix though. So keep an eye out on the N75 valve. If you're getting boost problems or you're getting some kind of error code and you suspect the turbo's not working effectively, first of all, look at the N75 valve and just see if that is working as it should. So the catalyst and the DPF, if you do short journeys, you're going to have problems. Basically, that's just the nature of these engines. So keep doing long journeys, make sure the engine gets up to temperature before you shut it off. Every time you start it, the engine will be dumping a lot more fuel into the engine just to build the warm-up cycle and allow it to warm up more quickly and effectively. And that's not good for your catalyst. It's producing a lot more soot. And if that's the only style of driving that you do, it's going to clog up very, very quickly. So very much that's down to driver abuse. Give it a kick when it's warm. Use those higher RPMs. Your engine will really thank you for it. And always use good quality oil. Always look at the service intervals and just make sure you stay on top of those. And hopefully, if you're just aware of these problems, you can completely avoid them. Let me know in the comments what your experience has been with the 2.5 TDi, and let me know if I've missed anything off. If there's other common problems out there, I really need to know about it so I can address these on the article on our website. There's a link below. Please boot that like button because that really does help us to get out there, and subscribe to the channel if you've not done so, because we would love you to stay tuned, and I've lined this video up for you to help you to get the most out of your diesel engines. Thanks for watching.